Welcome to bout number 3 in our ABL Week 3 contest between the Broad Street Brawlers and the Mid-Atlantic Boxing Club. We're going to the middleweight division. Two combatants that were great during their era. Bernard Hopkins coming in with a record of 1-1, taking on marvelous Marvin Hagler at 1-3. Let's look at the combatants. Hagler comes in with a 117.2 rating as opposed to Hopkins' 85.2. The stamina difference, the advantage goes to Hagler, 106.78, and the knockout percentage, of course, marvelous Marvin Hagler, 77.6, opposed to Bernard Hopkins, 47.7. D2 is Hopkins' rating, so he's a -2 on the defense. Hagler is a -3. With the advantage, Marvin Hagler will receive a 4-point advantage for each round, 1 through 8. We're set to go from the T-Mobile Arena. It'll be marvelous Marvin Hagler, the advantage, rolling first. And immediately Hagler rolls a 19. So he has 19 plus his 4 is a 23. So a great way for marvelous Marvin Hagler to start up. 19 against the stamina to Hopkins, but a good round for Hagler. Here's Hopkins. Hopkins with not a sequence. He'll roll an 11 and 6 is 19. 20 actually. 20, a good round by most observers, but still, they're slugging it out. Not enough to take on Hagler in round 1. Big round for both combatants. Here we go, round number 2, scheduled for 8. Hagler, the aggressor. Hagler with 8, 10, 11. 11 plus his 4 bonus advantage will give him a 15. That's kind of a weak round for Hagler. He'll score 15, but he's only going to score 11 against the stamina of Bernard Hopkins. So we'll see if Hopkins could take advantage of that here in round number 2. 3, 4, 5, no 6 for the sequence. Instead, it's going to be 7 and 10, 17, and Hopkins does take advantage, and he'll win the round. So Bernard Hopkins will steal the round in round 2, and he will get the advantage in round 3, despite the fact that he's a 4-point underdog in round 3. It's going to be 8, 10, and 3, 13. That's kind of a weak round for Hopkins. We'll see what Hagler has in store. Another slow round for marvelous Hagler. 2, 3, 4, and 6 is just 10. But with the advantage, he will win the round. That's where an advantage comes into play, folks, when you're looking at 4-dice boxing, because that advantage is added on to your dice score, and it can make the difference, and that's why it becomes a very realistic replay. Here comes Hagler now for round 4. He rolls a 15 and 4, 19. That's a nice round for Hagler. So 19, 15 will count against the stamina of Bernard Hopkins. Here's Hopkins' roll. He's got the triple 3s. They're right there, the triple 1s. It's going to count for a total of currently just 6 points, but don't worry about that because we're going to go to the event column. 1 in the event column. Let's see what happens. What's happened in the bout? A 1 is going to be a cut. Here we go. We're going to be looking at the three red dice. Again, no defense comes into effect here on the fouls, cuts, or injuries. It counts for 13. 13 is a bloody ear. So, Marvin Hagler with a bloody ear. I've seen that happen in a previous Marvin Hagler bout. So, a bloody ear in round number 4. And with that, the cuts are 10 points in a round plus the sum of the dice. All right? So, he got 6 and 10. That is going to be a 16 round. A 16-point round, I should say. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to help him much. because it's not going to get him the round. He's not going to win the round because of it, which is a shame. But because of the ABL rules, we only have one judge in the contest during the regular season. Hate to add the editorial comments, but I'm going to at this point, because again, that will not help Bernard Hopkins, because he'll only get a 16 against Hagler Stanima. And as we look at this, we're putting a notation, but Hagler still wins the round because he had a 19. Now, had it been Fordyce boxing rules, the judge would have awarded Hagler the win of round 4. However, the other judges would have gone the opposite way and scored it a 10-8 round in the traditional boxing scoring method. But we only have one judge here, and it's going strictly by the points. So here we go. Marvin Hagler will lead off in round 5, considering the fact he has a bloody ear, which may or may not affect him the rest of the way. No sequence. It's going to be 9 and 6 is 15. 15 and 4 is going to be 19. So Hagler gets the 19. Another nice round for Hagler, just like he did in round number 4. It will count 15 against the stamina of Bernard Hopkins, which is 78. So in the next round, we're looking at stamina buster points and an opportunity for Marvin Hagler. Here's Hopkins. 2, 3, 5, 6, no sequence. It'll count 11 and 5, 16. Another decent round for Bernard Hopkins, but not enough to pull a win. Not enough. Now we go to round 6, scheduled for 8. Here's the roll from Marvin Hagler. Low roll indeed. 4 and 3, 7. Plus the 4 is 11. A chance for Hopkins to steal a round here. So it's 11, but it's only going to count 7 against the stamina. We are going to do a stamina buster check after Bernard Hopkins' roll here in round 6. He gets a 10 and 12. He will win the round. So Hopkins will take the round, likely. All right, but we've got to go to the stamina buster. Now, Bernard Hopkins is a -2, so let's look. Stamina buster -2 on the first check. We're looking at all 3 red dice first. 7, 8. 8 minus 3, 1, 2, 3. He's been knocked down. Bernard Hopkins is down, folks. He is down in round number 6. And with that said, we've got to go to the knockdown chart. Remember, he's a -2, but we're going to go to the knockdown chart. Marvin Hagler, we said, was what, a 77.6%. So he's a 77.6. He'll be in the middle column. Again, Hopkins is a -2. We're going to look at just the 2 top numbers here. Dice roll. Here we go. It's a 9. We're going to go 9 minus 2. It's a split. There is a chance of a knockout, folks. 2 to 10 is a standing 8 count. 11 and 12 is a knockout. Here we go. We're rolling the top 2. It's an 8. It's going to be a standing 8 count. So let's go back to it. So Hopkins down for a standing 8 count in round number 6. All right. So Hagler will automatically get a 25 for the round. But now we've got to roll again. Remember, what do we want? We need doubles or sequence for a second knockdown. We've got a second knockdown. So there's a second knockdown in the fight. Now we go to the knockdown 2 chart. Here we go. Again, Hopkins is a -2. Here's the roll. It's a 7. 7 minus 2. Another standing 8 count. Another standing 8 count for Bernard Hopkins. Now with that said, what do we know? We know Hagler now will score 30 in the round. So it's a huge round for Marvin Hagler. He can do him right here. If he can roll a sequence or double doubles, the fight is over on a TKO stoppage with a 3 knockdown rule in effect. 6 and 1, it's not. So With that said, 2 knockdowns, standing 8, standing 8. Hopkins did not hit the mat, but again, it's going to hurt him because it's going to count a big 30 for Marvelous Marvin Hagler. So basically, Bernard Hopkins went from winning the round to losing it decisively because of the 2 knockdowns. That's 4 dice boxing. Now we're in round 7, so we're going to put KD2, so we know that 2 knockdowns have occurred. And we're going to round 7. First, before we do, we've got to check for a TKO for Bernard Hopkins. So let's get it up here. Now remember, he's a -2, so we got to do first check TKO. That's an automatic check at the start of the next round. He rolls a 4. 4 -2 is no TKO. So we're good there. Bernard Hopkins survives it, but Hagler will now roll and with a big chance to take a commanding lead in the fight. 11 and 6 is 17. 17 plus 4 is 21. So another huge round for Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who probably will just cruise his way to victory in round 8 and not put himself out there. Here's Hopkins now for round 7, his roll. And remember, we've got to check the stamina buster when we're done. He rolls an 8 and 6 is 14. So 14, and we will roll under stamina buster 2, the second column, as we call it up. Second check. Here we go. Remember, -2. We're looking at all 3 of these dice, and we're looking at 5, 8. 8 -2, 1, 2, nothing happens. So Hopkins survives that onslaught. We go to round 8, final round. Marvelous Hagler now rolling with a 4-point advantage in the round. Triple ones. There we go. Triple ones for Hagler. He'll get a total of 5 plus his advantage, but we've got an injury here to Bernard Hopkins. One, I believe, is going to be a cut. As we look at it, it will be a cut. Let's see what happens. He's got to hope for the 8-0 injury. Here's the roll. Again, we're looking at all 3. There is no adjustment to defense. And it's a total of 9. A cut on the bridge of his nose. No TKO check. So we're just going to mark it. So we've got a cut on bridge of nose. And what does that mean? Well, the only thing it really means is that Marvin Hagler will see more points. He's going to get 10 plus his total. So that's going to be a total now of 19. So he does finish strong. So that is going to count all 19. 15 points will count against him, against the stamina of Bernard Hopkins, which we're going to have to check that stamina buster again one final time. Here's the roll by Hopkins. No sequence. Very close, but no cigar. 9 and 5 is going to be 14. Hopkins will possibly survive the fight. And we're going to check, too, for Marvin Hagler, because now he will have a stamina buster against him. So we're going to count that as well. Here we go. First, we're going to count against Hopkins, then Hagler. Remember, Hopkins is a -2, Hagler's a -3, so let's go to the stamina buster. So first for Bernard Hopkins, this will be the third check. -2. The roll is 15. -2. We have an injury. So now we've got to go to the injury chart. And that most likely will be against, because it's the stamina buster, most likely against Bernard Hopkins. Let's look at the injury chart. And there's the injury chart. Let's see. Here we go. Rolling 3. 11. We've got a neck stinger, -1. So Hopkins suffers a neck stinger. cut on the bridge of the nose and a neck stinger. Wow. No, that cut on the bridge, that was from the last round. My apologies. So let's get this straight. So let's go ahead and put that up there. Hopkins, that's where he was messed up. That was round 7 that the injury lies. Okay. So we got to put that there. All right. This now will change. This will be a neck stinger against Hopkins. -1. So that drops him down to a 13 for the round. 13 against the stamina. Okay. Now we have to roll against Marvin Hagler, who's a -3, and this will be the final roll of the match. First check stamina, -3. Here we go. 13, -3, 1, 2, 3, nothing happened. All right, so Marvin Hagler survived, no problem. No problem in the match as well. Here we go. So the next stinger will count as an injury. And Hopkins survives, but barely, to finish the bout. Here we go. Here's the judge's decision. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge scores the bout 160 to 121. The winner by unanimous decision, Marvelous Marvin Hagler from the Mid-Atlantic Boxing Club. So Hagler takes the bout against Hopkins. We had Aaron Pryor defeat Sugar Ray Leonard, and to this point, Roberto Duran beat Packy McFarland. Up next, we will have the final bout in the heavyweight division. You've been watching Fordyce Boxing, the ABL Boxing League. I'm Kevin Elias.